The Great Train Robbery of 1963. A daring heist that captured the world's imagination and netted over £2.6 million, equivalent to about £55 million today. But was it really the perfect crime? Or just a lucky break gone wrong?
Oh, that's an intriguing way to look at it. What makes you question whether it was as well planned as people think?
Well, when you dig into the details, you start to see cracks in the supposedly perfect plan. For instance, did you know that the whole thing nearly fell apart because of a ketchup bottle? It's true. But let's back up a bit. The mastermind behind this audacious scheme was Bruce Reynolds, a man with a flair for the dramatic and an appetite for risk.
Sounds like a character straight out of a heist movie. How did he put this crew together?
That's exactly what it was like. Reynolds knew he needed a team of specialists, each with their own unique skills. He started with his loyal friend Gordon Goody, who was initially skeptical. When Reynolds pitched the idea, Goody reportedly said, "That's no small job, Bruce. That's huge." But Reynolds, ever the confident leader, simply replied, "Exactly. Huge. And we're the ones to do it."
So, who else did he bring on board for this massive undertaking?
Well, he assembled quite the cast of characters. There was Buster Edwards, the smooth talker with organizational skills, Charlie Wilson, the quiet but brilliant planner, Roy James, their getaway driver extraordinaire, and Tommy Wisby, the muscle. Each one brought something crucial to the table, but managing all these big personalities wasn't easy.
I can imagine. How did Reynolds keep them all in line?
It was a constant balancing act. There were arguments, doubts, and plenty of tension. But Reynolds had this knack for keeping everyone focused on the prize. For months, they worked in secret, planning every detail. You know, they even used toy trains to practice. Can you believe it? These hardened criminals playing with toys like kids.
Laughing. That's hilarious. But I guess it shows how meticulous they were in their planning. So what happened on the night of the robbery?
Well, that's where things start to get interesting and messy. On August 8, 1963, they put their plan into action. But right from the start, things didn't go as smoothly as they'd hoped. The train driver, Jack Mills, refused to cooperate. Tommy, being the muscle, took matters into his own hands and hit Mills. It gave them the time they needed, but it also created more problems down the line.
Oh no, that sounds like it could have derailed the whole operation. What other issues did they face?
Well, as they were loading the cash, Buster was shouting about how they only had 5 minutes. And then, get this, as they sped away, a bag of cash actually fell onto the road. Roy, our getaway driver, looked back and swore, muttering something about it being a rookie mistake. So much for all that careful planning, right?
Wow, it's like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. How did they manage to get away with it at all?
That's the thing. They didn't, at least not for long. When they got back to their hideout, the mood was incredibly tense. Charlie, ever the pragmatist, wasn't celebrating. He was already thinking ahead, saying, "The cops will be all over this. We need to disappear now." And then Edwards found a walkie-talkie that someone had left behind. You can imagine how that went over.
So what ultimately led to their downfall?
Well, here's where that ketchup bottle I mentioned earlier comes in. A single fingerprint on a ketchup bottle at their hideout gave them away. One by one, they were caught. It's almost comical how such a small detail brought down this massive operation.
That's incredible. It really shows how even the most carefully laid plans can unravel, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And you know what's even more fascinating? The aftermath of the robbery. The trial was the biggest event of the year. People came from all over to see the infamous crew. Bruce managed to escape for a while, living in luxury abroad before he was finally caught. And then there's the story of Ronnie Biggs, who broke out of prison and fled to Brazil, becoming something of a folk hero.
It's amazing how these criminals captured the public imagination. But what about the money? Did they ever recover it all?
That's one of the enduring mysteries of the great train robbery. Most of the money disappeared. Some say it's still buried somewhere in the English countryside, just waiting to be found. It's a tantalizing thought, isn't it? Like, imagine stumbling across millions of pounds while out on a hike.
That would be quite the discovery. But looking at the bigger picture, what do you think makes this story so compelling, even decades later?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. First, there's the sheer audacity of it all. These guys weren't just robbing a corner store. They were taking on the Royal Mail, a symbol of the establishment. Then there's the element of mystery that still surrounds it. The missing money, the rumors of betrayal, the daring escapes. It's like a real-life heist movie.
Mm-hmm. And it's got all the elements of a great story. Colorful characters, high stakes, unexpected twists. But do you think there's a danger in romanticizing these criminals?
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of the story and forget about the real-life consequences. We shouldn't forget that people got hurt, like Jack Mills, the train driver, and the robbers themselves paid a heavy price. Most of them ended up serving long prison sentences, and some, like Bruce Reynolds, later expressed regret for their actions.
So in a way, it's a cautionary tale as much as it is an exciting heist story?
Exactly. It's a reminder that crime, no matter how daring or well-planned, doesn't pay in the long run. But it's also a fascinating snapshot of a particular moment in history. The Great Train Robbery led to significant changes in how large-scale crimes were investigated and prosecuted in the UK.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, after the robbery, the police realized they needed to improve their methods for dealing with organized crime. They established new units specifically designed to tackle these kinds of large-scale heists. The robbery also led to improvements in forensic science. Remember that ketchup bottle fingerprint? It showed just how important even the smallest piece of evidence could be.
So in a way, the robbers inadvertently helped improve law enforcement techniques?
Ironically, yes. Their actions led to a more sophisticated approach to fighting crime. It's a perfect example of how even negative events can sometimes have positive outcomes. But let's not forget, while we can appreciate the audacity and planning that went into the Great Train Robbery, it's important to remember that crime doesn't pay. At least, not in the long run.
Well said. It's been fascinating diving into this piece of criminal history. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
You know, I think the Great Train Robbery serves as a reminder of the complexity of human nature. It shows how ambition, risk-taking, and teamwork can lead to extraordinary achievements, even if those achievements are on the wrong side of the law. It's a story that continues to captivate us because it speaks to something fundamental about the human spirit: our capacity for daring, our desire for adventure, and yes, sometimes our willingness to break the rules.
That's a great way to sum it up. It really puts the whole event into perspective.
Thanks. And remember, folks, while we can appreciate the audacity and planning that went into the Great Train Robbery, the only train you should be robbing is the gravy train of knowledge. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.